All right, Paul, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, man.
Yeah, your talk last time was so interesting and popular. We thought we'd have you back.
I'm super stoked to be here, man. Thank you very much. It's a privilege.
What do you feel like talking about today?
Man, I just first of all wanted to express like my gratitude to you.
That's nice.
I've always known I've had a story, but never really had like a platform to share it on, and never imagined it getting the kind of feedback that it did.
Yeah, really positive.
Really positive, yeah. Very, I think I touched the hearts of a lot of people. You know, it was like relatable to people going through their own struggles or family members or friends who've had similar backgrounds or similar struggles, different backgrounds. And man, it was just really amazing to hear all the positive feedback, all the love and support. And I never thought in a million years I would have helped that many people just with like sharing my story.
A lot of people have been through all these similar stories you hear on my channel.
And that was really what drew me here, was hearing, you know, all these similar backgrounds and seeing the outcome, you know, of like addiction, prostitution, like all the horrible things. And I just wanted to come here and share light, like, hey, you can have this shitty life and it doesn't have to make it shitty now. You know, everybody can make this change, you know. Some people's struggles are obviously harder than others. And I just believe that most people just haven't found the right tool yet. Like you were just saying about your back, you know, once I found that right thing, it's 100%, everything's better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like what I try to do, is help people find that right tool, you know, and that video was really helpful to like antagonize people to do the change, whether it was reaching out to me or just reaching out to somebody.
Yeah, because you have you actually help people?
Yeah, so I do.
Talk about that a little bit.
So I do coaching work, like personal coaching, and based on like specifically trauma, you know, and like very related to how to overcome repressed traumas, whether it be from childhood. I work a lot with the military community, and just getting to work with them, even like 20-year operators that have been in special operations for, you know, a majority of their careers. I get to work with them, and the stuff that comes up that's really holding them back is childhood trauma, you know, like law enforcement as well. They have these really stressful lives, and they go into these really stressful careers, and when they retire, on top of all that combat trauma or like law enforcement stuff, what comes up is childhood. You know, it's these deep childhood wounds that make these good military men, make good soldiers, make amazing drug addicts, you know, really good undercover cops. Like all the high stress jobs seem to have like one thing in common. It's like these broken homes that kids are coming from, and like the military will make a man out of you. Join law enforcement because you want to make a difference in the world. And then you still realize like, hey, I'm still this broken child after everything is stripped away and you're in retirement. So really just this childhood trauma is just rampant, you know. We see it every day. It's what ultimately took my brother's life. I'm sure you can relate with the recent passing that you had to deal with, and it's just really tough. And then for me, it was exactly what almost got me. You know, I had this perfect life, beautiful family, business, home, and my son being a certain age kind of like dug all this stuff up that I didn't even know was there. You know, now I kind of try to give that back to people and find a path of healing.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really a privilege, you know. It's an absolute privilege. And the video, I just couldn't imagine it ever reaching that many people like it did. For like every 500 great comments on there was like one or two shitheads.
There's always. Yeah.
That would just like kind of rip into me. One lady yesterday, I wanted to thank her personally because she went in there and she's like, this guy's full of shit. His website's not even working. And my website was down. So I had to like go on there and figure that out. So thank you. I don't remember your name, but I appreciate the intel on my website. So some of the things I'm working on now is I work with a nonprofit called Alpha Wave Project, and we work primarily with the veteran community, like from like the GWAT background, so Global War on Terror, like this last 20 years, and law enforcement first responders. And we get those guys out like doing activities that promote alpha brain waves, which is like your state between beta and theta. You know, like you have beta is where you're really stressed out, redlining, hypervigilant. Theta is like your calm state, and alpha wave is that vagal tone in between the two. So we try to promote activities like surfing, fly fishing, a little bit of hunting. We got beekeeping and things we work on, just kind of get guys from real stressful backgrounds. Maybe they're retired, maybe still active duty, and show them ways to kind of decompress after, you know, a long day of working a really stressful job, whether it be, you know, out fighting fires or working around here like Narcan and homeless people and doing all that stuff. And especially in the military background, these guys just, they don't even know what it's like to live in a peaceful state of mind because they spent the last 20 years just redlining, you know. So that's been taking up a lot of my time, traveling all over the U.S., working with veterans. I just got back from Camp Pendleton this last weekend, working with a bunch of MARSOC guys, which is like the special operations of the Marine Corps. And we took them out surfing and barbecuing and just kind of had a really good time of fellowship on the beach. And it's really neat to see people kind of like come to an event very like uptight and uncomfortable. And then at the end of like a couple hour surf session, it's like all smiles and like this brotherhood comes together, and you can kind of see the layers get peeled back. Real authentic conversations happen where they're talking about past stuff and talking about where they're at on their healing journeys now. And it's just been from this video that I did with you, man. It opened so many doors for me, Mark, and I cannot thank you enough for just having this platform and allowing me to come on here and share my story, man. It's just been really special. I had, like I said before, I had this beautiful life. You know, I had my first son, beautiful wife, I had a beautiful home, all these things, and it was a certain moment that kind of like lit the fire, and it was like almost one that I felt couldn't be put out. You know, if you can imagine just like a movie screen going off and all these memories came back from childhood, and I didn't even know a lot of them were there, and it was my dream life that stirred it all up. So it was my dream life that stirred it all up, and I just see it a lot with people that I work with. When I first started my career in like coaching and psychedelic work, I got to work with a lot of therapists off the jump, people who'd been doing it for, 20, 30 years and helping people with all their traumas. And when you get to work with them, you realize that they didn't even know they had these issues that were like steering the ship. You start peeling back the layers, and when I work with people, I start at childhood, and I want to kind of know everything about their life, from when they were born, maybe even before, what it was like when mom was pregnant, if they have any sort of information on that. Our personalities are formed from like utero to 4 years old. So like everything mom is experiencing when she's pregnant with you or whoever, you're getting that as a fetus. You're getting all the cortisol, all the dopamine, serotonin. You're getting all those chemicals that mom gets. So if mom's in a stressful environment and an abusive household, you're going to come out of the womb with the cards already stacked against you, right? And then you continue on life like that until 4 years old. Your personalities become formed. And a lot of people just don't realize that the reasons we are the way we are starts long before we even form memories, And I realize that a lot getting to work with people that we just, we're kind of like let the subconscious steer the ship, and as you start to unfold things and peel layers back, you can help people realize that things that happen even sometimes before they have memory has shaped them to who they are now. And it's been such an awesome experience to help people kind of figure out why they operate the way they do, and whether it be addiction. A lot of people's addiction issues are just really dopamine, right? They're addicted to dopamine. It's porn, drugs, shopping, food, a lot of negative things can be their delivery system to getting that dopamine, and kind of helping people find new pathways to like get that fix, whether it's cold exposure, cold plunges, sauna, breath work, all these things that people lean into medications for, like everybody wants the healing, right? Until the healing is discipline. And it takes a lot of discipline to get in a cold plunge every day or set aside 10 minutes to do a breath work. And it's so much easier to just take that pill in the morning, but they have so many side effects, and there's so much healing out there that we have in our own hands, in our own body, right? You haven't found that right tool yet. So repressed trauma is kind of like what I'm combating against, not so much the world around us, but what happened to us before, right? The traumatic event's a traumatic event. It doesn't necessarily matter if you were stacking bodies on a battlefield in combat or, having a really rough upbringing with being in the system or whatever it may be. The result and the side effects often the same, disassociation, hypervigilance, addiction, you name it, the list goes on. And if you start checking the boxes, it doesn't really matter what happened to us, but what matters is that the symptoms are often the same, and we can undo that.
Sounds really good.
Yeah, it's been my passion, and it's really amazing to get to do this more and more and like lean into it.
Are you basically doing therapy with these people?
Yeah, well, I'm not a therapist, right? So I can't call it that, but most of my clients introduce me or refer to me as their therapist. But yeah, basically the same thing without the credentials, right? What I do with psychedelics is not necessarily legal yet. So to hold a credential puts you at risk of losing that credential. So I've kind of steered away from going the route for a master's because, for one, such an investment. I'm a high school dropout. School's been hard for me my whole life. Like I'm smart, I'm educated, but to hold my attention long enough to get a master's degree, I don't see that happening, I have kids, business, I don't know how someone would go to school full time and support a family. And what I do, I don't necessarily need it. So it's therapy, I guess. Coaching is what I legally have to call it, but it's all relative, same
It's
thing.
crazy how many people have these childhood wounds that they're carrying into adulthood.
It's pretty wild, and as an adult or even as a young man or woman, you think you're so alone, right? You know what I mean? And I gave a talk at a group home not that long ago, and I asked, hey, who here feels like they're all alone in their suffering, and that nobody can understand, nobody can relate? And every hand went up in that room. It's like, look around. Nobody here is alone. Everybody's suffered in one way or another in their life, whether it be traumatic or not. I was talking with your receptionist out there, and she said, that's what brings us all together. That's what everybody has in common, right? Some sort of pain and suffering in their background. But it's painful to talk about, and it's sometimes painful and shameful, or at least you feel that way. But when you can pop the cork on that and sometimes talk about the hardest thing ever first, everything else is relatively easier after that by nature, and if we could get people to understand that there is healing and vulnerability, and it's not like macho to keep this shit balled up, it's not macho and stuff to hold your tears back, like our tears have alchemy. I see so many people on your show apologize for crying, or they'll reach for a tissue and they'll wipe their tears before they even get to their face, right? Tears of joy, tears of sadness, tears of happiness, tears of loneliness, they all have alchemy. They look different under a microscope. And our cheeks, right, they're like designed to bring our tears down to our mouth so that we can taste that. So it's almost like medicine, and we live in this world where it's weak to cry, but I think that is like such a opposite of what it really means to cry, is to be vulnerable, show your emotions, to allow it, to feel it, And I think to really process any kind of traumatic event or any kind of painful experience is to really allow yourself to fully feel 100% of the hurt and the pain and the sadness behind it, and then move forward. You know, so many of us want to fill our days because it's easier, whether something terrible happens and work is our outlet, and we'll just overdo it with work, or go to the gym and work out, or drink, or smoke weed, or whatever it is, you know, like it doesn't have to be a toxic habit for it to like suppress the healing that needs to be done. And I really encourage people to allow your tears to flow, you know, and really feel the pain of what it is that's happened to you in full effect before you can ever think about moving on from it.
The only way out is through.
Exactly. The only way out is through. It's like I heard this story about the buffalo, right, and cows. They're similar in nature, right? Both graze and pretty much don't do a whole lot. But a cow, when it sees a storm coming, it'll run from the storm. And it'll run until it gets tired, so tired that they just die of exhaustion. They'll run off cliffs, they'll run into fences. But a buffalo sees the storm, and it runs to the storm and towards it and through it. Because they know on the other side of that storm, there's green skies, green grass, beautiful blue skies. But you have to go through it, right? The only way out is in. And I try to live like that, you know, and kind of head first through the storms, and you can find the right tools to be calm in the chaos, right? You don't necessarily have to make it through the storm, but you can find the right tools to where you can maintain, and the storm goes around you and life goes on because you found a good baseline, whether it be breathing or cold plunges or meditation. You know, there's a lot of stuff you can do just on the fly throughout the day, where there's just a 2-minute little breath work or 3 breaths in and out or whatever it may be. Everybody's got their own tool. But yeah, we live in this chaotic world, and it's just so easy to numb out with distraction, you know.
It's mostly men or women that come to you? Probably mostly men, probably.
From the video, I don't know if it was the shirt that I wore or what, but it definitely wasn't my cologne. But I was a lot of younger women my age were attracted to the video, and I got to work with quite a few women. Men is mostly who I work with. It's where I feel most comfortable. It's a delicate space, working especially with, you know, plant medicine in a one-on-one setting with women. A lot of them have sexual trauma. It's very uncomfortable for them, so they might be more comfortable working with a female facilitator. But yeah, I mostly work with men, and lately it's been men from the special operations community and in the DoD. So all across, Marine Corps, Navy, Army, you name it. I get to work with those guys, and that's a lot of fun. It's like, it's the most fun I've ever had working, you know? It's like, can't even believe that it's a reality to get to work with such a high caliber of men, you know? It's like, it's made me a better person, getting to be surrounded by that community. I work with a organization in Oklahoma called Rising Ridge, and they'll do like veteran-only retreats, so there'll be like 20 soft veterans there that I get to work with, and not being from that community, usually outsiders, not that they're not welcome, but you just don't quite fit in, and I've really found my place there, and it's a lot of fun, and I've made a lot of really good friendships and great connections, and it just keeps like pushing me forward and meet more people, opens more doors. I have a meeting this week with the chief psychologist for the California Department of Corrections to see if we can implement breath work, cold plunges, and like sauna therapy to the corrections officers throughout the state of California. I'm really excited about that, especially growing up the life I did. Like, if you told me I was going to be working with cops and helping them heal, I would have told you you're out of your mind, you know, and I have such more of an appreciation for that community after witnessing all the stuff that they have to go through from another lens, you know. Usually I had this victim mentality of they're out to get me, you know, like that sort of stuff. I was always in trouble growing up. So you just assume that all police are bad and you have this like, fuck the law mentality. And now it's like quite the opposite. You know, I still get nervous when cops are behind me, but you know, when I get to work face to face with them, they're just like me and you. They're no different. You know, they're just people who want healing and deserve healing. So it's really exciting, like just to see all these doors open from an hour-long video that I did with you. Not that you promoted it or anything like that, right? You have a platform and a huge following, which I never would have imagined. Your lady just told me 650,000 views on just YouTube. Mm-hmm. And that video is like been passed around the military, and like my phone rings from all these people I've never even known, and it's just because one person liked it and it helped them and they shared it with their friends, and it's just really opened so many doors for me that, man, I will forever be in your debt, Mark, just for giving me an opportunity.
You don't owe me anything.
I mean, maybe not. I'll just forever be grateful.
Cool.
You know, you gave me a platform to share my story, and it kind of like catapulted me into like, I was already successful, owned a plumbing business, but it didn't fill my cup. I knew that I wasn't destined to be a plumber. I didn't make it through all this shit in life to like build houses for people and do all this. It's been a great vehicle, and itself has opened a lot of doors for me. Like I've met a lot of really wonderful people through the career, but it never filled my cup. And I've always wanted to do more to help people because I knew like my past has healing for people because I've made it through that. And coming on here just really allowed that to be a possibility for me. And it's like, it's been life-changing. It's been great for my marriage. My wife just sees that I'm happier. My cup is full. When I come home, she tells me like, you are at your best when you're doing this work, you know? And
that's great.
And that's been a long time coming, you know? I don't come home and bitch about dealing with like eccentric customers who want gold tile in their bathroom and just being a pain in my ass. I get to come home and share with my wife how I got a letter from a wife that, you know, I saved her marriage, and her husband came back the man she fell in love with 15 years ago, you know, and really work with people and watch them come off their meds where they think they need like all this crazy healing work. I'm so messed up, I can't feel, I have no ability to cry, I can't sleep, and they start tapering off all these meds that the VA gives them, and you kind of see the life come back to them. And that's like without doing any psychedelic work, you know. It's been really special, Mark. You helped change a lot of people's lives, not just with my video, but through so many that have been on your channel.
I just think sharing information like this is very, very helpful and therapeutic for a lot of people.
It gives hope, you know. It gives hope to a hopeless community, you know. Like a lot of people and their suffering, I didn't know any way out of it. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. This is the only way I could see this getting any better, is if I just wasn't living anymore. You know, my brother, the same way. He was just so hurt and didn't have a support group and ended up possibly taking his life. We still don't know, but repressed trauma was the ultimate thing that led him to sticking a needle in his arm. You know, he was 5 years in prison with no therapy, no drug rehabilitation, none of that stuff. And he gets out of prison with $1,100 and like 1,000 hypodermic needles. They set him with a box of needles because he's a diabetic, you know. And first thing he did was start shooting dope again because there was no work done. Like they just think you're going to go to jail and all of a sudden things are going to be better because you did 5 years, when there's not. You know, the trauma's still there. He never healed from it. And it cost him his life, you know. And I see it a lot. I lost a friend just the other day. I got out of surfing and pick up my phone, and then you find out they found a friend in a field from a drug overdose, you know. And it's really, really sad to see it rip apart families. I know the parents really well. They're great clients of mine. And it's heartbreaking. And it's somebody who I asked about all the time, hey, can I work, please? Like, anything I can do to help, you know. And, you know, the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it, right? And so many people you lead to this well, and not everybody drinks from it, you know, and that's okay. We can't save everybody, but the ones that I do get to work with, I've been like pretty successful with it. Like I see the changes in people, and I just know that it's possible for everybody. Like everybody can heal. You know, there is people out there who have severe mental illness, and maybe that's just their cross to bear forever. But for the majority of it, like they just haven't found the right tools yet.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're doing work that's rewarding for you as well.
It's so rewarding, you know. It's so, I mean, I do so much of my work like on a donation base, but the payout is like so much more than that, to like be able to make some sort of message out of the mess of a life that I had is worth way more than any dollar amount. It's just been such a privilege. It really, really has. And there's a couple of things I wanted to address. A lot of people ask questions on your in the comments. First of all, thank you everybody, like, for the encouragement and the love. I mean, I've seen thousands of YouTube videos and I've never left a comment, right? So the fact that people take time out of their day to leave something nice it just means the world to me. It really like was encouraging to know that I'm on the right path, and it kind of kept me going. So thank you everybody for that. One of the questions that was asked a lot was why I didn't end up with my grandparents, you know? For those of you that didn't see the first video, you could watch it, or I could give the short description, but my mom died from domestic violence when I was 5 months old. She had 9 kids, or my grandmother had 9 kids, all very successful. My grandparents were amazing. And at 5 years old, due to some allegations that were made of child abuse, I was taken away and put into state custody. And I stayed in state custody for like the next 10 years. While my grandparents went through like this whole legal battle with attorneys and stuff fighting the state. And the question was, why didn't I get to live with them? And I don't have an answer. I really don't know. The state's broken. The child care system in California is still broken. There's a lot of fraud and money grabs that go around, and kids get trafficked all over and bounce from home to home with no explanations why. I was a very violent kid, you know. At 5, 6 years old, I was already seeing so much violence in the home that it was just second nature to me. So that probably played a part of why I ended up like in County USC Mental Hospital, and then from there to more group homes. And I think that there's some accountability to be taken there on my end, as much as a child could possibly bear. You know, I wasn't a good kid. I wasn't a bad kid either, but I was just very hurt and abused, and I did the only things that I knew how to do. And I think ultimately it kept me in the system for a long, long time, a lot longer than I should have been. And then getting out at 10 years old, my dad gained custody of me and was still very abusive. I ended up back on the East Coast and right back in state custody in Massachusetts. So the lack of leadership in the system, I think, was a huge part. And then my behavior while I was, you know, institutionalized definitely played a role in that for sure. But they don't necessarily understand trauma, I don't think. I think a lot of the people's in the in leadership in state care, they get credentials through school. They haven't really lived that life or know people who've lived that life, so they base everything on a book, kind of like the doctors you go see now. Every time you go see like a PA, they're just Googling shit or going off of their brochure. People don't really practice medicine anymore. They're like very textbook oriented, and there's not a lot of outside of the box thinking. So when you have all these kids thrown in a melting pot of like a big group home, you have all this abuse and very little people to kind of like maintain it or work with them, and like with a trauma lens, you know, where they could really understand it. So I just kind of ran wild and made poor decisions, and I think that ultimately kept me where I was for so long. Another question was, I had my teeth drilled by the dentist for like no reason. I didn't have any cavities. And then one of the group homes took me into a dentist, and they ended up drilling all my teeth. Said I had like 18 cavities, and it really screwed me up for life. I got all this like the amalgam in there, and it's not great, and there's just money grabs there. There's nobody there to advocate for me, so there's no one to get a second opinion. So they knocked me out and drilled all my teeth, and I can't do anything about that. But there was people that just couldn't believe that the medical system would do a thing like that. And I wish that were true, but I'll deal with that for the rest of my life, and that's okay. That's really the only questions that people like asked over and over again that I didn't get to like explain in the first interview. I don't know if I should really have to, but I thought
I don't really like addressing the comments.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't usually lead to something good.
Yeah, and that's good. If you want to cut it out, whatever.
No, that's all right. What are you learning from all of this journey?
Man, so much, Mark. I'm learning that for the longest time, and this is very personal to me, like I've been in a leadership role for a long time, like better part of the last 20 years. I've been like leading young men some way or another, whether it be in business or just my friends, but I've always viewed myself as like almost like a kid, like hanging out with people my own age, all doing the same stuff. And I just always felt like I didn't belong, like I was out of place, and then I realized it's not true at all. I'm not a child anymore. I don't have to see myself in that lens. And working with the caliber of men that I get to within the military, and that really kind of like build my confidence enough to where I didn't feel like I'm such an imposter anymore. I'm really making impacts. And I just don't feel that way anymore. I know I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I don't feel inferior, and I don't feel like an imposter out of place. I've learned that the possibilities to heal from some of the most horrific things. I've had clients from like extreme combat trauma to gang rapes, murder, you name it, like all across the board of like horrible things you could witness or do. I've seen people like make incredible transformations from those past events. They don't have to define who you are in a negative way. They can very much be things that are empowering and uplifting. And if everybody on your show who had a horrible life made a difference, right? Made a change, and then could go out and just touch one person, it has like a ripple effect, I worked with these two guys separately just recently, both retired Marines. One of them's on the board of directors with us at Alpha Wave, and really did some tremendous healing work with both of these guys. And just last week, they led a breathwork class and cold plunge class together at a fire department with a combination of Marines from the Intrepid Spirits program, which is like the TBI clinic, and a mix of the guys from the fire department. So to see like the effects of being able to work with these two individuals and then see them teaching another 10 or 20 people and just witnessing the ripple effect like firsthand, so like healing yourself and working on this stuff. Some people just want to go about their life, right? And that's totally cool. Like, go enjoy your life. You've earned it. You deserve it. But a lot of people want to give back, and that's where like the real healing comes in, when people who've lived those lifestyles, who understand trauma, who've been in combat, who've been abused by their parents, they heal, and then they can pay that forward to more people. It's just really awesome to see the ripple effect that I guess that I've had on people. It's really amazing. Man, and I've learned gratitude, like the power of gratitude. Gratitude and anxiety can't necessarily function at the same time, right? So people who are anxious like myself, I would just set gratitude alarms on my phone every hour. My phone will like ping, and it just says gratitude, and it's not, oh, I'm grateful for my wife, and the day goes on. It's like, no, I'm grateful for my wife. What is it about her that I'm grateful for? Maybe it's her cooking. Maybe it's how she loves my kids. Maybe it's how she loves me and how she stuck by me. But to really immerse yourself in gratitude, you can't be anxious and grateful at the same time. It's just not possible. So I've really implemented that into my life and try to live in abundance, with an abundance mindset. You know, some days get the best of you where you're just like, fuck, man, like it's a lot. But really just immersing yourself in gratitude could be such a game changer for people. And it's so hard to even grasp that at the jump of things, right? A lot of people think that there's nothing in the world they could possibly be grateful for. But there is so much. We all have breath, we have life, you know. Even if our parents were shitty and horrible, they gave us the most amazing gift, and it's life, you know, and it's really up to us at a certain point to make the most of it. You know, you can only be a victim for so long, and at a certain point it's up to us to make the changes. Nobody's coming to save you after a while. But gratitude's definitely been huge for me.
That's great.
Things are really good in my life, Mark. I am tremendously grateful for you, dude.
Gratitude is great.
It is great. It is absolutely great.
All right, Paul. Thank you so much for coming in again.
Dude, thank you.
And maybe we'll see you again one day.
I'm always open for it, man.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, Paul. When I was designing the first Soft White Underbelly book, I realized that there were so many great portraits that weren't going to make it into that book. They just wouldn't fit. And once I saw how well that first book sold, I knew I'd have to design a second book. This second book is finally ready to ship. Like the first one, this book has a collection of some of the best portraits from Soft White Underbelly, accompanied by a quote from that person's interview. This book features another group of Rebecca portraits, as well as a collection of color images of the Whitaker family, and plenty of others. You can order yours for $125 or $150 for a signed copy at softwhiteunderbelly.org. Again, like the first book, once this book is sold out, I will not be printing more of them. The portraits are what Soft White Underbelly is all about, and these two books contain the best of all that work. Thank you for watching.